What did it just say? Riverside
Um,
wants.
so my new,
Oh,
I'm kind of digging this lighting now. Kind of ambient, kind of down tempo vibes for me over here. It's like
right,
a down tempo TBM set is what's going on right now.
right.
Um,
I mean, it's kind of the evening, and you notice we're missing somebody, and we can't find Trey. I mean, like,
yeah,
do you even have any idea where he's at? Because I haven't. He might
haven't
have
heard from
just
him. Don't
dipped
know where
out.
he is. He may have quit the pod for a second time. I don't know. There's no
Yeah,
telling.
yeah.
Or he
So
may
I
make
mean,
a triumphant return. I have a feeling when I announce the next album, he's going to feel inclined to return. So we shall see.
interesting,
Yeah.
interesting.
Also, my new gaming obsession with my new PC. I have bought and built a racing sim rig.
Look at
So
you.
everybody knows that's how much. I promise I have had sex before, despite what this may look like. Um, so yeah, just all weekend, just doing a little racing, doing a little F1, doing a little trucking, just catching the vibes. Just behind the
Ken,
wheel, just vibing.
so I've never been in like invested in racing games except for cruising, the old console cruising
Yeah,
64 from the
yeah,
arcades. That's the legendary racing game. But
yeah.
like, so two questions: does your little sim rig have foot pedals? How does
It
that work?
does. Yep, it
Okay,
has 3 pedals, so clutch, gas, brake, and then it has paddle
gotcha.
shifters on the wheel for when you play
Fuck yeah.
racing games. And
Okay,
then it
now
also has a stick as well for when I play my truck games, a manual
fuck
transmission stick. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Dude, I get they. They got to have. I mean, I only say this because when I drove garbage trucks, I was the most precise with the claw. I mean, like precision work,
yeah.
but like, dear
Nice.
God, do they need simulators for some other drivers out there because
Yeah,
they're
that
just
doesn't
flying through.
surprise me. Well, and the thing is they have like any type of simulator game you
Right.
could possibly think of, they have it. They have garbage truck simulator, they have construction simulator. I play farming simulator, so you do like
Shit.
any type of farming equipment. Like there, any driving thing you can do, there is a
Right.
sim you can play for 100%.
Right.
So
But they can't prepare you for people who do what I used to call snow cones, which is you just pile up the garbage to where it's just levitating on top of the can. You're gonna make
no,
a mess.
yeah,
You
of
can't practice
course.
for that.
When's the
What?
last time you drove one?
Oh, it's been. I still have my CDL, but it's been 4 years, probably 4 or 5
Damn.
years. But like, it's funny because I'll just when you that's just repetition all day long. I mean, you're dumping thousands of cans a
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
But but now when I see drivers, I just kind of I can't help but judge them on their accuracy and their skill work,
yeah.
because like
I feel that.
somebody places a can too close to the mailbox, you put it right in the middle of the driveway.
Yeah,
If it's backwards, you're gonna put it backwards and probably laying on its back too. So
yeah.
there's a lot of ins and outs of the garbage world that if you ever want some insight, I will keep
See,
in.
that's like me. That's going to be me this weekend when I watch the first F1 race. I'm going to be like, not digging those turns. Feel like
No.
you got to tighten those up. Feel like my turns are a lot better than that.
Right.
So,
But so all right. So the last question I had about that was in those types of games, can you race like a legendary race with legendary drivers? Like, could you be Earnhardt Jr. or Earnhardt Sr. for that matter? Like, do they have that function
so
or that
in
like I
like,
know there's different types of racing, but
so in F1, which I play F1 and I play a Zeta Corsa, which is GT racing, like the cars that are in like that go to Le Mans and all those.
right.
You play as the actual driver. Like you can create your own character, or you can play as the actual drivers. Like you can play as Lewis Hamilton, you can play as Max Verstappen. And then obviously they have all the, like Monaco, all the normal courses.
Races.
Yeah, all the normal tracks. So it's all real racetracks and cars and shit. It's honestly like sim racing. We're almost at 5 minutes. I didn't mean to go on this tangent, but like
It's all right.
it's gotten so realistic, like insanely realistic, just what you can do. And now the graphics are like, it feels like you're in the fucking car. I'll send you a picture that I took earlier, but yeah, it's crazy.
Fuck yeah.
But anyway, okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's Totally Biased Music. It's only Blake and Anthony today. And just so you guys know, this is episode 98. So we're coming up
Mhm.
on the 100th episode. And we have a doozy of an episode planned that we're very excited for. But in the meantime, today we're reviewing Cracked Rear View by Hootie and the Blowfish and Army of the Dead, which is a Zack Snyder film. And I have some interesting thoughts on that, which I'm excited to talk about. I wish Trey
Good.
were here. I want to know his thoughts.
Mhm.
But yeah, tell us a little bit about why you picked the Hootie and the Blowfish album.
The Hootie phenomenon started in '94, and I was a grand age of 3. But like Hootie and the Blow, like this album was obviously there's like 5 or 6 songs that got endless airplay. But in reality, that was like my first time probably listening to music or recognizing like music that wasn't being sung to me in church or in school or by my parents or something like that, you know. So I had a connection with it early on, and these some of these songs still do resonate with me. This was my first time, even though I said I had the CD back then. When you got CDs, you were really getting I was getting them for a handful of tracks off of it to listen
Right.
to at nauseum, you
Right.
know. And that's probably why this was one of like the biggest selling albums of the 90s. I mean, it's up there of all time probably, but like realistically, it's for those songs, and that's the difference between, you know, record labels putting out 45s with actual singles on it, and then this age, the digital age, or the CD age, you're having to go and get the CD. But this was my first time listening to it really all the way through. So almost 30 years later, or yeah, 30 some years later, uh, it was very interesting because like there's a lot of obviously there's a lot of Darius Rucker in popular culture in reference to being called Hootie, um,
Right.
but uh, but there's also a lot of like jokes about. There's a line in "I Only Want to Be with You" where he's talking about the dolphins make me cry. But there's a lot of crying in this album. I had no idea. Like
Yeah.
I was when I was listening through it, I was like, did he say tears again, or he's talking about leaving me crying, or tears on her cheek? And I'm like, wow, there's just a lot of heartbreak, at
Yeah.
least from Hootie's side in this
True.
album. So I found
True.
that kind of like refreshing to come across that now and not have any context to it in the past. But also, I mean, like I said, this album just really the tracks in here are nostalgic to me. I figured it'd make for a fun conversation. I don't. This album's not one of my favorites of all time, so spoiler alert: this is not a 10 out of 10 I'm bringing to you today.
Fair.
I don't believe so, but it was a fun listen, and you know the production of this album is really clean too for back then. And this was their first album. I didn't know that till reading recently, but this was their first kind of step out into the world, and Jesus, they stepped way out into it. And I think it's 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 that catch 22. Like when your debut album is being received so massively, how do you follow that up? And I don't think they ever could touch this, which is unfortunate because I think that this album does show a lot of potential of directions they could go. But yeah, it was a fun pick. So I figured we would kind of wrap up my pre 100 picks with something fun and nostalgic and 90s and your first listen too, right?
Yeah. So, look, I'll be honest. I widely incorrectly assumed what this music was. I thought so. Is Darius Rucker a country artist?
Yeah. So like I guess it depends on what you classify as country and when you classify it, because like he has a really distinct voice. Like he has a very good voice, you know. It's very velvety, very baritone like. But he does play acoustic guitar. So I mean you could say that that's country. But he definitely transitioned to it. I think like he did a cover of Wagon Wheel, you know,
Yeah.
Shake Me Mama, and that
Yeah.
was like huge like step in that direction for him because people recognize his voice, he recognized the song, and it was a great cover. So I think that kind of pushed him into a solo direction. But I'm not a Hootie, how do I say, fucking a
Savant.
historian, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not very versed in their history. But I would call him country now. Would you call this album a country album if you had
No.
no idea?
And
Right,
that's
right.
what, so like, that's what I expected going into it. And then, like, 3 tracks in, I was like, this is not country music. And I don't know. Look, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I did not like this shit at all. Like, it was very hard for me to get through because it's like, I went in expecting country music, which it wasn't, which is probably my fault. But then it's like, I don't. What kind of rock music is this? It's rock
Yeah.
music, but I don't know what kind of rock. Would you call it like contemporary rock, or like, I don't know what it is. And I just was so jarred by and look, my biggest issue, to be completely honest, with the album is like and I don't know if it's all rock music like this or if it's just this album, but holy shit, it all sounds the exact same. Like
Yeah.
every song sounds so similar to the last song that it's like, I was listening to it and I wasn't looking at the tracks as they went through, like, because I was listening to it in order, and there were times where I was like, did I switch songs at all, or is this the same fucking song? Like, it
Right.
all just sounds so similar to me. And like, there are still some good songs that I could pick out, but like, to me, there's just not a lot of them. And this is not a type of music that like I really enjoy. And he's kind of like, the thing about Only Want to Be With You is like, that's like the most stereotypical like early 90s rock voice that you could make fun of. It's just it
Right.
just
Right.
sounds like, I only wanna be here. Like, it's, I can see, I don't know if South Park has made fun of them, but I can see them making fun of them. And that's just so much of this album to me. And yeah, I didn't expect it, and it was tough for me to, and I, because Trey was like, I really like this album. That's what he said to us. And I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, then maybe I'll be on board. And man, I just went in a completely different direction.
Yeah. Well, like so after listening to this all the way through, did anything sound familiar like you may have heard it somewhere before? Because that's really shocking considering, like the guts of this album, or at least 2 through 5, are like beyond well known, like sing along
So yeah,
songs.
Only Want to
Yeah.
Be With You, I obviously
Yeah.
knew because everybody knows
Yeah.
that song, and it's the most played song on here. And then the next most played is Let Her Cry, which I don't know if I had heard before. But I may have, because like I said,
Yeah.
it all it all blends together to me.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
may have been a song that I'm sure, knowing my parents and knowing the early 2000s and the radio being on, I guarantee you I've heard these songs before. And I don't believe my family are Hootie and the Blowfish people. I know my dad has gone to a Darius Rucker show, but I don't know if he
Gotcha.
was like a Hootie and the Blowfish guy. But I guarantee, like, I think back, I will say one thing I liked about it was it was so nostalgic in the sense that I remember being a kid and like, this was all that was on the radio. It felt like just songs like this, and I have vivid memories of driving through. I was born in Coral Springs, Florida, and I still have like, I was so young at that time, and you don't retain a lot of those memories, but I had bits and pieces of Coral Springs, and like, this music takes me back there to when I was a child, like a 5 and a 6-year-old,
That's exactly what this does for me in Louisiana. Like that 93 to 96 like time period of music, to classify it would be a headache, in reality, if you're trying to really genre bend and put a pin into something. But like, I always grouped all of that as like 90s alternative. I mean, from Alanis to the Goo Goo Dolls to Live to Blind Melon to Hootie. I mean, it's like there's elements that are their own, right? Because it is hard to classify it. But I think like in this album, they kind of found just a formula, or a cohesive system that works for these guys. Because there's only 4 of them, but a lot of the songs are very similar, and the themes are very similar too. I mean, like I said, there's
a lot of
crying. I mean, lots of it, lots of tears. So bring your tissues when you listen to this album. But like,
exactly.
but for me, it definitely brings me back to being in the car. Like, the memory I have is just sunlight out of a window. In reality. But yeah, I was figuring. I mean, like, getting your opinion on this was half of picking it, because I knew it was going to be, divisive in one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was brand new. It was brand new, so there's going to be some strong opinion on it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into top songs. What do you got for your top songs?
Okay. Number 3, I have "Hold My Hand." if you listen to this song with headphones, it's the second song on the album, but I wish it was the first because the way it starts is very acoustic out of one ear, and then Darius Rucker's voice comes out in the second one, and it balances out, and it is the like sing along song. Like this song at a concert is the one that I honestly hate the most because the artist turns the mic to the crowd and lets the
Yeah.
crowd sing, and I'm like, no, I
Yeah.
want to hear your fucking voice, Darius. So I've never seen Hootie and the Blowfish live. To my knowledge, now that I think, I wonder if they came to a crawfish boil in Birmingham. But
Oh, I could definitely see them there.
I mean, that's like ideal music, right?
Yeah.
But Hold My Hand is a classic, and I don't know, probably debatable the best known song on this album, but or Let Her Cry. But takes number 3 for me. Number 2 track is one that I definitely resonated with as a kid. Running from an Angel. It is a different vibe sonically, I think, from the 3, Hold My Hand, Let Her Cry, Only Want to Be With You. It kind of shifts slightly. Um, and I really dig it. There's a lot of acoustic and percussion kind of elements in it. And the lyrics too, running from an angel, running to the devil. That was just like the 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 5-year-old badass in me wanted to
Yeah.
go. What's going on over there? I want to go over there.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why I picked it as number 2. My number 1 track is Time. Time for me seems like the most complete, and like I think you could take that song out of this album and it does stand alone as like a solid track.
Yeah.
And the lyrics are more deeper in that sense, like I don't believe in time, like time. And there's a lot of like the wordplay in that song is very interesting too, because there's different ways to reference time and to perceive time, but time is just another day and I don't believe in time. It's just a cool fucking line. So Time for me is my favorite track on this album.
Quick question: do you pull any similarities between Hootie and the Blowfish and the Goo Goo Dolls? Do they elicit the same type of vibe for you?
Well, yes and no. I mean, like if I were to really like say those two bands, Hootie and the Blowfish is more Americana, more like earthy, whereas Goo Goo Dolls to me is more like that's more emotional shit to me,
Yeah.
honestly. But like same time period, same genre label, but like in reality, two different sounds.
Yeah.
I think Goo Goo Dolls use a lot of strings and orchestra kind of stuff to build their songs. Hootie uses Darius Rucker's voice, I think, to carry a lot of their songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, those two to me in the 90s were like my shit. I
Yeah.
used to, I might have said this before, but I used to, on VH1, they used to have this show called Pop-Up Video. It's kind of like just like music videos that they would just play. But for me, that lane of music was very intriguing. And there was a ton of like one-hit wonders in that kind of realm of music.
Yeah.
But Hootie and the Blowfish was one that I realized, had a handful of songs within that kind of collection and on the same album, which again is really fucking cool. But unfortunate that it kind of felt like a peak and then just kind of a slow kind of fizzle out into their own kind of single lanes. But yeah. So what'd you think? What you got?
So for number 3, I had Not Even the Trees. And that was kind of on what you were just talking about, right? Darius's voice, kind of memeable, kind of easy to make fun of, but like he does sound really good in this song. You got to give credit where it's due. And I think that he's kind of letting the pipes show in this song. And it's melodic. It's nice to listen to. So I can't shit on him too hard. And he's not doing too much of the sound in this one. So definitely one of the better tracks. Number 2 for me, Drowning. So Drowning is more of a, like, it feels like a rock song, right? There's electric guitar in here. There's some guitar solos happening, which is like kind of a departure, I feel like, from the rest of the album.
Right.
But it felt less whatever fucking version of rock this is. and actual rock music is kind of what it felt more like. And I could see myself getting down to this at a show. It's like I would, if Hootie and the Blowfish were opening to somebody, I would sit down for the majority of it, and then if this song came on, I would stand up, and then I would go back to sitting down afterwards.
Yeah,
So
dude, it's a powerful fucking song. And like I'm so glad you mentioned it because I was gonna bring it up at some point because like this song is extremely racially charged. Like this is the whole song. You
yeah,
know, I mean the it opens up with like why is there a rebel flag hanging from the state house walls? Tired of hearing this shit about heritage, not hate. Time to make the world a better place. Like
yeah,
it's very provocative in a sense. Like this is what the experience has been like. Considering he's also the only African American in the band, I'm fairly certain. I don't want to misquote, but I'm fairly certain he is. But he was. This band is also, I think, from South Carolina or one of the Carolinas. So like right in the heart of the South too.
yeah.
But to have that song right in the middle of this album is just so it's ballsy. It's so interesting, and I wish that that song had gotten more airplay or more notoriety because that's the one we needed to hear. You know, not really "Let Her Cry." You
Right.
know, in a sense, like
Yeah.
we still need to hear this song today. So it
Yeah.
was really cool to hear that song at 2025 and realize like 30 years later we're still talking same shit, just different pieces of the puzzle are out there right now.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you like that one.
And then my top one was Hold My Hand. I thought, and like you said, man, let me tell you something. When I listened to Hannah Jane, I was like, I'm in for a rough fucking ride. This is gonna be a long album. And then Hold My Hand came on, and I was like, okay, this is a good song.
Solid
You know,
one.
it's simplistic, it's acoustic. Darius sounds great. I really enjoyed it. You know, it's a very I don't know. It's an emotional song, not in the sense that like I'm gonna cry like Darius, but like it still evokes some sort of emotion in you. I think just the way that he harmonizes with the instrumentals and really really enjoyed it a lot better than Hannah Jane, and I'm glad that that was the
Yeah.
second song to rope me back in and be like, okay, you can get through the album. Just there's more good
Right.
coming, so
But
I
how much
gotta put
cooler,
it as my number one.
right? How much sicker would it have been to open the album with "Hold My Hand"?
Yeah,
You know, because
way
it's
better.
acoustic and then it goes like that would have been. I mean, such an easy choice to make because I almost put Hannah Jane in the bottom just because of it being placed at the first track of the album.
Yeah,
Because I felt the same way. I was like, shit, I haven't really listened to this whole thing. How south is this going to go? You
yeah,
know, but they treat, I mean, they give you what you want. I mean, because the next four songs are all pretty solid in a sense compared to the whole album. But
yeah,
yeah, I
for
get it.
sure.
I get it.
All right, well, let's go into bottom. What do you got?
All right, so I'm gonna go with my bottom. I have three, but my second and third bottom tracks are really the last two tracks that we have listed, which is "Goodbye" and then "Motherless Child," which on the CD version, I found this out from our trusted source, Wikipedia. Um, that "Motherless Child" is actually not listed as a track; it's more of a hidden track within, like "Goodbye" plays, and then there's a moment of silence, and then that track comes out. Um, "Goodbye" is basically like as a ballad. It's like a piano with his vocals, Darius vocals over top, which doesn't fit at all in this album.
Yeah,
And "Motherless Child" is really just like a 50-second kind of gospel, uh, showcase of Darius's voice. Again, like doesn't really fit into this album. So like they could have ended this at "Not Even the Trees," and this album changes. I think
yeah,
in a really good way. But with this being their first album, I understand like just filling space really.
right.
But those two tracks didn't really fit for me. And then my number one bottom track is "I'm Going Home." And it's straight up for the shalalalas. Like we do not need shalalas in music, like let the crowd do that, but like
Yeah,
not as an action. Like he's got a great voice. You don't have to waste it with shalalas.
yeah, yeah.
So that is an easy road to my bottom tracks is throwing those in there.
Can
So I'm
I
going
just
home.
can I just
Yeah.
say something? So I'm going home is on my bottom, and I put
Yeah.
in parentheses enough with the sha la la.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
couldn't.
like,
It was just. It's so corny. It's so fucking corny. I can't do it, man.
maybe to fade out a track, you can like sha la la and
Yeah.
then like let it drift, but like you can't bring it back. You
No.
can't keep doing that to us,
No.
Hootie.
So bad. So yeah, I also had I'm going home, and
Yeah.
then I had Hannah Jane for the same reasons we just listed earlier. Like just a bad, like even Flip, Hold My Hand, and Hannah Jane. Like you could put it as a second one,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
it works better. But man,
It disguises it a little bit
yeah,
better.
not a
Yeah.
good intro to this album. It almost took me out of it completely. Thankfully it was early, and I was like, I'm gonna keep an open mind. But man, it was rough.
Yeah.
And then I hate to do this because I know it's the most popular one, but Only Want to Be With You, just because like God, his voice is so funny. I can't take it seriously. I cannot take it seriously the way that he is singing. It is so stereotypical, like mid 90s, whatever version of rock this is. Like that is the prime example of if you were going to make fun of this version of rock music, you would use this song. And I can't get past it. It's so distracting to me. And it's like it's like he's performing a caricature of himself.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like. Like he's going so over the top with it. It's like I picture them in the studio being like, man, Darius is really
He's really
going
for
at it today. Yeah. Like,
Easy, buddy.
He's settled down, dude. Those are my bottom three.
Yeah. I mean, and that's probably I have that similar reaction with like a lot of newer music, because I'll see like a spoof of it before I ever hear an original.
Yeah.
And then I can't not think that shit was funny as hell. Like I have to give them the credit, even though these are the originators. But it's funny because in Only Want to Be With You, there's the line, I forget the intro, but like the dolphins make me cry. I'm such a baby because the dolphins make me cry. Growing up, I had no idea what anything about that song. And then when I got older, I wanted to think that they were talking about the Miami Dolphins, being so good and then being not so good.
Yeah.
But it's really because Hootie's a big softie.
Yeah. Yeah, so, exactly.
But like it would have been so much cooler.
But in our head, it's the Miami Dolphins.
It is. It
will never not be.
They still make us cry. Shout out Tua.
Exactly.
Stay safe out there. So
okay, well, hang on. Let me see if
you definitely can find something.
I was about to say there's got to be
Rolling Stone
reviews,
top 500.
Right? Cracked rear.
Yeah, because I'll give you another fun fact while you're looking that up. Because this was their first album, they had released something prior to this in 1993. And I want to get the title correct. Oh, where did I see that? It was an EP. Oh, damn, this is going to bother me. All right, so here we go. So Hootie 93 EP. Coochie Pop. They had an EP in 93 called Coochie Pop.
Nice.
That they released independently. It's got 6 tracks, and actually it's a fucking banger. Hold My Hand, Only Want to Be With You, and 3 other songs.
Nice.
The Old Man in Me is a thing. So some of those songs had been, I think, refined before they released this album, and then they said, well, here's the place to put them.
Right. Yeah.
Officially. But Coochie Pop, a very interesting EP from Hootie and the Blowfish.
There actually isn't there isn't a review from Rolling Stone or Pitchfork. So
wow.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Before their time, I guess.
I know, right? So let's go into ratings. What do you got for it?
So I'm
still
giving
listening,
this as,
by the way.
I was struggling between 6.5 and 7, so I'm going to split the difference and go 6.75 for me. There's a lot of nostalgia, and that carries a lot of it. And realistically, the songs that are bangers could really elevate a rating. But I'm just going to stick with how I'm feeling today. So 6.75 from me.
That's fair.
How low are you going to go?
Look, man, I know Darius. I know Darius is a legend in his own right, and I appreciate the attempt. But it's a 4, man. I don't know. I think it didn't help that I went into it thinking it was something it was not at all. That set me back. And then like it's not even that long of an album, but it's just the repetitiveness of it. God, it just sucks me out of it. It's really tough for me to look past. So, but hey, look, Hold My Hand comes on. I'm gonna let it ride, and I'm gonna enjoy it. So could be worse. Could be worse.
It definitely could. It definitely could be worse. So
solid
album though. I mean, overall, like any other I know you gave it a 4, but like you got some good out of it. You got some memories out of it. You got some jokes out of it, right? So I
Yeah.
think
And
overall it's something fun to
I
talk
got
about.
to like I would have never listened to Hootie and the Blowfish had it
There you
not
go.
been for you bringing it. So it
There you
had to
go. That's
happen eventually. So I'm glad that
exactly.
it came to the pod and I got to listen to it. And I told Trey, I was like, honestly, would it be great for the podcast to eventually blow up and then we make millions of dollars and then we never have to work again? Absolutely. But the best part about the pod is just getting to listen to and watch shit that I never would otherwise.
Yeah.
Like I would never listen to Hootie and the Blowfish album. I just wouldn't.
Right.
So
Hmm.
that's the beauty of it.
And that's why I love art, is like to expose people to stuff one way or another. And like this is a more forceful way to do it, which I'm so glad for, because I can do it with no qualms and say this is what it is. But like to also hopefully do that for other people too is just like the icing on the cake. But really for us, like it's such a fun hang and such a fun way to present things to each other and then shit on it or talk about it.
Yeah,
So either way, it's all biased as hell, but it is definitely fun. So glad you
100%.
got something out of it.
All right, well,
All right.
let's go into. So that was Cracked Rear View by Hootie and the Blowfish, by the way. Let's go into Rides or Dies. You lead us off because I'm interested. I got to hear what was going on here. I was a little shocked with your pick, so you got to give us a little backstory here.
Yeah, so I was gonna bring this last week, but I also I thought you were gonna bring it. So I got this song from your Instagram stories, uh, because you shared it, and I was like, "What? I don't recognize that title." Where? And it's from the Death of Slim Shady. So the song is "Like My Shit," and we had talked a couple weeks ago about triplet rap, and when I listened to this song, I was like, "This might be that type of rapping." And the way that Eminem does it in this song is the way to do it. Like this is the example. Like there were lines in here. There's a checkers and rallies
Yeah,
combination. Like, and that is like that's my shit. Like I grew up with both of those restaurants, and in Louisiana we had checkers, and Birmingham we have rallies. It was just it was all it was hitting me in every place I wanted to be hit. He had an Alfred E. Newman reference, which is like Mad Magazine's
yeah,
caricature
yeah.
face. When
Oh,
I
the
was like, "Oh
references
my
in this
god,
song go crazy, dude.
it's
They go
awesome!"
crazy.
And the flow doesn't stop. And again, had we were talking about the triplet rap, and in my mind, I'm like, this is the coup de grace of triplet rap, right?
Yep.
So was gonna bring it one way or another, and I wasn't sure if you were gonna bring it, but this song is fucking awesome. And why wasn't it on the album? That's what I
So
want to
I
know.
know. So it was on the deluxe. So he dropped three
Right.
songs on the deluxe, like my shit, Fuel remix, and then a song called Kyrie and Luca, which
Right.
R.I.P. to Kyrie and Luca because it's not a thing anymore. Um,
Ooh.
but yeah, Kyrie
Right.
and Luca is him and Two Chains, and this song, like the chorus, like I was really interested that you picked it because it's first off, it's definitely triplet rap, like it's like
Yeah.
machine gun triplet rap, but also the chorus is very new age hip hop. Like it's just, and I was like, I thought you would hate it, and I really like it because it makes me dance. Like it's such a head bobber.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and I thought that would turn you off to it. I didn't think that you would like it.
Well, I think I overlooked that because I'm so looking forward to what he's gonna say next, what Eminem is gonna say next, because that part did kind of like, oh yeah, you know, there's one line about a woman like she liked my dick or something, but
Yeah.
like either way, I'm like, all right, I can get over that because who is that?
I don't
Uh,
know. I
he's
don't
not
know
even
because
mentioned.
it's not it's 15 after is the name of the person. 15 after. And
Okay.
I don't know who that is and it's not on the Spotify feature either, which I thought was really strange.
Yeah.
Um but yeah,
But
I think it's great. I think the chorus is great.
yeah, he talks about Lowry's salt. Like it's just dude just hits every like
Yeah.
corner of like my growth as a human, within this track. And it's just like I said, Mad TV. It was so fun, and it was so fun to discover it that way through your Instagram stories that I was like, how have I not heard this? And
Yeah.
why haven't we talked about it yet? So that's why I
Yeah.
brought it. So
Well, I obviously I got to give it a ride.
yeah.
And there's another line in here. So he says, said I'm just a huge waste. Well, that must make these rappers belts because now they all feel so small they won't even wrap around me.
Oh
And
yeah.
like the Eminem like does this thing where like his double entendres are so like I don't catch them until later. And like one of my favorites is on Music to Be Murdered By. He says there's a line in one of his songs where he says, I used to sit back and watch these bills pile up. Now I just sit back and watch these bills pile up. And like to me at first I was like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. And then I realized that like initially he's talking about his bills,
Paying
not being able to
bills.
pay his bills, and now he's talking about having so much money. Like he
Yeah.
does shit like that a lot in Music to Be Murdered By, because I feel like that was recorded during COVID, and I'm sure all he was doing was sitting and just like
Just
thinking,
flowing.
just writing, just thinking of shit
Mhm.
like that. And it was funny. I talked to somebody when I went to England with Amanda. One of her sister's boyfriends was like, yeah, I feel like he's like, I really like older Eminem. He's like, now I feel like he's just trying so hard to like squeeze in as many like double, triple, quadruple entendres that he can
Yeah.
into lines. And I'm like, yeah, but like 90% of the time it works.
Yeah.
Like
If you
it works
can
really
do
well, and
it.
it's funny
Mhm.
half the time. Um, and there's another line where he says something like, I can't remember, something to the degree of like, I used to like something about meals. Like he didn't know where his next meal was going to come from. Now he doesn't know where his next meal is going to come from. Like
Yeah.
just in a different way. Like shit like that I find so funny. But yeah, there's a lot of those types of things in this song, which is like every time I listen to it, I catch a new one. So it makes me enjoy it.
Oh yeah,
Um,
and just to one more nod to the triplet aspect of it, everything complements what he just said. You know, turn your GPS off and get lost, right? You know, I mean, like
right.
it is so comedic that way, but it is like it all makes sense. It doesn't feel unnecessary or forced at
Right.
all.
Right.
So
Uh, all right. So I picked Everybody Like by Kid Cudi featuring Pusha T. And this is off of Nitro Mega, which is the Insano Deluxe, I guess, but it's really another album. Um, but really, like, I don't love the chorus, if you can call it that. And I don't really love Kid Cudi's part, but man, Pusha T's verse is so good to me. And like, I'm a massive Pusha T fan, so like, I know I'm biased, but holy shit, the way he's rapping on this song is just him at his best, and what makes Pusha T Pusha T. I love when he says 6 figures on the watches and the chain. I'm so toxic and obnoxious in my range. Like just the way that he raps is so entertaining to me. So I had to bring it because man, I fucking love Pusha. I never get tired
yeah,
of him.
yeah. So this song definitely rides, but it's I find it so interesting that you focus on Pusha T in the song. You just, I mean, you're just a big Pusha T
Yeah,
fan, you
yeah,
know. But like me, Cuddy makes it for me. The production makes it for me. You know, as much as I don't like the yays and like my shit, I love Kid Cudi's woes. Like Kid Cudi,
yeah.
the way he uses his voice is so fucking cool. It is another element to his songs, you know, and that doesn't get old to me. But yeah, song definitely rides. And did we do we didn't do Insano, did
No,
we?
we didn't, and we
Okay,
talked about or maybe we did do Insano, and then
not
we
Nitro
talked
Mega.
about we talked about bringing Nitro Mega, but didn't do it because I actually think Nitro Mega is the stronger of the two albums. To be
Yeah.
completely honest, like even looking at the songs that I added to my playlist, there's only 3 songs on this album that I didn't add to a playlist. So I really enjoyed Nitro Mega, but yeah, we should think about circling that in at some point.
Well, that was
Um,
ironic too, that because that came out after I had brought Dose of Dopeness as a ride or die. I think for Nitro Mega. Does that
No,
sound
you brought
familiar?
it. No. You brought it before because I remember you bringing it and then seeing it on Nitro Mega and being like, "Oh shit, Anthony just sent this song." Because then I think I brought the Nitro Mega version after you had brought the YouTube
Okay.
version. Because when you sent it, it was the YouTube version, so it definitely wasn't
Right.
on Spotify
It
yet.
wasn't released, yeah.
Yeah,
Because I remember saying like this song should be released, and then it comes out in that fashion, which was fucking. I mean, just the magic of podcasting, right?
yeah,
Make shit
hundred
happen in
percent.
the real world. All
Um,
right.
All right, so Trey said that he was going to join up on Twitch for when we announce the album next. But before that, we need to talk about the movie of
Yes.
last week, which was Army of the Dead by Zack Snyder. And I have been no stranger to my dislike of Zack Snyder on this podcast. And I'm an avid Zack Snyder hater. And I think that hate is justified, while you don't, Anthony.
No.
I think it is. And I will say I turned a new leaf with this film. Look, is it some fantastic movie? I don't think so. But I think if you look at it for what it is and what it's supposed to be, it is a good movie. It's enjoyable. The CGI is great. The makeup artists went fucking crazy in this movie. The premise is awesome. A heist movie that's basically you're not worried
Zombie movie,
right,
too.
you're not worried about the police, you're worried about zombies. Like, some of the action sequences are fucking phenomenal. The characters, like, some of them fall flat and feel pretty lifeless, but like the German, the safecracker is great. I mean, they made a whole movie with him about him, so like he was a star. Dave Bautista is great, and I just think there's a lot of really cool moments in this movie. Now, one thing that bothers me is like Zack Snyder does this thing where he, my big gripe with him is like, oh, director's cut and this and that, and you got to watch this, and I didn't have this version out, and like there's things in this movie that get thrown out there that never come to fruition. And I don't know if he has planned, like there's a robot zombie at one point. I don't know if you caught that. And apparently Zach said, oh, like we'll get more into that with the prequel animated series. And then there's the baby storyline, which doesn't ever amount to anything. And then there's the one that really bothered people, which I didn't have a problem with, but the scene where they're going into the vault and he's like, oh, this is just us. This is just us on a. Oh, Trey actually joined.
Look who's here.
I thought he was going to just join via Twitch.
I
We're
was waiting on your text message.
I sent it to you.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I meant I was gonna join the studio. I don't know
okay.
how to use Twitch. I've never done that before.
Okay. Well, we're talking Army of Dead. I don't know if you watched it or not, but like, and then the scene when they're in the vault and he's basically saying this is just us on a different timeline, like it's just happening over and over again, and people were really mad that was brought up, and then nothing was ever mentioned about it again. And like they're like, why did he do that? Like that has nothing to do with what's I thought it was funny, like I think it's cool, but they're like one of the dead bodies is wearing the exact same necklace as one of the characters, so people are like, why would you pitch that plot point if it wasn't actually a plot point? So he does this thing where like he leaves like breadcrumbs that you think are going to go somewhere and they don't. But I think if you put that stuff aside and don't think too much into it, it's a fun movie. Like the action sequences are great and the zombies look great and it's just entertaining. I think it's fucking too long. It's 2.5 hours, but I still think it's worth the watch. And like, how can you not love a zombie tiger, man? That shit is boss as fuck. Like that shit is awesome. Yeah. So that's kind of my thoughts on the movie.
I mean, it does. I think Zack Snyder is an artist, right? And you could, I think, resonate with his art or be turned off by his art or kind of a little bit of both. And I think he does leave outs for himself in a sense. Like if he wants to do another project, he could do a sequel to this movie pretty easily, and he did the prequel what's it called?
Thieves. It was a prequel.
What is it
called? Army of Thieves.
Army of Thieves. Yeah. So there's a lot of directions it can go. That's how I felt about that scene in the vault too. Cause it did throw me off. Cause I had seen this before and I think I just kind of let it go out of my head. And then I watched it again and did notice like that they are kind of like the exact same people. Right. But I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. So it was definitely strange to me, but I think his movies are a lot of fucking fun. I love how all right. So are you a fan of his like little mini montage moments that he does?
Yeah.
The slow motion and the, I love that.
And the intro is great. Like when Vegas is being taken over. I also shout out to that chick the French chick who's not French. Her accent's really weird, but she speaks French. Yeah, and she speaks French. The coyote. She speaks French in the movie, but me and Amanda were like, she's not French, and I think she was born in like the Netherlands or something, or Argentina. Like she has a German accent almost, but she speaks French. And but her character is fucking badass. Like
Yeah.
she's kind of like sexy in a way because she's very scary, and like I love her voice, but I love her character too. So I just had to shout that out.
Yeah, and I think this movie too. It's such a social commentary movie. On how when you isolate people or you treat people like shit, like if they're left on to their own, they will continue to survive and thrive. And there's a fucking line that says, "You don't see the zombies fucking each other over," which is just very like it's very much like a pause the brake, like hit the brakes type of moment and go, "Wait, what is she talking about?" Because saying like the zombies have their own society in a sense, and when you have this authoritarian kind of government trying to, isolate them and then exterminate them, and they're fighting back really because just it makes you feel for them, right?
Yeah.
Which is a angle that I don't think has been taken from zombies really ever that I can recall. I'm not a zombie aficionado either, but it is very interesting to kind of take that approach. And this movie came out in 2021, I believe.
Yeah.
So it had to have been filmed prior to COVID or in COVID, but it was very I think it's very, all his movies are very well done. Take them for what they are. It's going to be pretty to look at. The covers that he uses in this song, "The End" by The Doors, there's a cover of that in here, "Bad Moon Rising." I think it overall is a good time. And that's what I've gotten from his movies to me, is that I'm going to be satisfied, or I'm never hating it. I am always trying to like see what is he going for, but I also realize like there are going to be things in this movie that is Zack Snyder's stamp on it. The montages, the character, like the way the characters develop over the movie is really like it's comedic at times, but the thing that lost me in this movie, and it didn't really lose me, but it just never hooked me, was any like emotional attachment. Batista and his daughter have this kind of thing going on throughout the movie.
Yeah, I just never really cared.
No, exactly. And maybe there's a lot of reasons as to why, but I'll tell you the biggest emotional reaction I did get was Dieter, who is the safe cracker, the way he talks about the safe. Like that's the best emotional part in the movie, because he's just in love with the engineering, and the attempt to do this. So I loved his character. When they came out with Army of Thieves, I was like all in, because I'm like, I want to see this guy more, because he was great.
Hilarious. And I also, going back to something you said earlier, I do love, there's a scene in the movie where the coyote says, you guys keep talking about this place like it's their prison. It's not, it's their kingdom. And I thought that was such a cool line, because it's like they have their whole like hierarchy and all this other stuff there. And definitely, I mean, there's some very cool moments in it. But there's just some Snyderisms in it that I'm like, especially like, and I think a big gripe with everybody was like the relationship between Batista and his daughter. And Ella Purnell is awesome, and so is Dave Batista. I think he's like the best wrestler turned actor, but you just never feel invested in him. You just don't, and the reason they made that spinoff with the German characters, because everybody loved them so much and everybody thought he was so funny. But yeah, I thought it was, a good ride for sure. I'm glad I rewatched it because I hadn't seen it in a while. So I think it was a good ride.
Did you get to watch that mini doc that's on Netflix?
I did. Yeah. And I thought
did it shine any new light for you?
Well, I thought the CGI parts were really cool to see how they did the CGI tiger and the zombie horse and all that. But what really like was the highlight for me was the makeup artist, man. Like the work that they put into this movie is, I don't know what those guys are getting paid, but they're not getting paid enough. I'll tell you that much, because they went fucking crazy with the makeup in this movie. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, and on the Vegas mapping, right? So like being able to fly drones and get documentation of actual Vegas and then digitize it and then have an entire digital world of Vegas to be able to, point cloud and zoom through. So I mean, the technology is really fucking cool. And when you watch it, I mean, it all, that's the magic of movies. And sometimes I'm really debate on going behind the scenes and trying to, see how things are made because the illusion is gone at that point, and there are some movies that I will just not care to dig that deep because of the experience itself. But also you gain such a deeper appreciation for folks like makeup artists and stunt performers and tech wizards, that are all working in collaboration to put it out.
Yeah, 100%. All right, well, it's time for the big reveal. So, Trey, I want you guys to know that. Why do you already look mad? You don't even know what the album is. I want you guys to remember that I listened to a Bright Eyes album open-mindedly.
This is not going to go well for me.
Open-mindedly, I watched Before Blake Cries or Before Sunrise or whatever that movie's called with an open mind. I even watched Beau is Afraid with an open mind and almost finished it. So I want you guys to approach this with an open mind, but it's time. It is time for us to do Nothing Was the Same by Drake. It is his third studio album. It is arguably, in my mind, his best album, and in a lot of people's minds, his best album. And I want you guys to put all the beef that has happened since aside, whatever you may think about Drake, and just appreciate the time capsule of 2013 when this came out, and just see, knowing Drake now, where this album pushed his discography. Can you guys do that for me? Can you go in with an open mind?
As long as we don't have to listen to the deluxe version.
Well, the deluxe album only has one extra song, but yeah we're going to do
that. Yeah, I'm still not listening to that song. I will go in with as much of an open mind as I'm able to open my mind.
All right, I appreciate that. Yeah. And Trey, you got the movie pick, so what do you got for a movie?
Damn, now I kind of want to do something like that.
Whatever you want.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Okay, like so we're going to do Captain America 2.
God damn it.
No, let's do, we're going to do Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Fuck yeah.
Is this the second one?
No, it's the first one. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I've seen them both.
Yeah, but I would really like to do it and talk about it.
Yeah. It's
this is the first one. Into.
I know we just kind of Blake made a joke about Marvel movies, and then I was like, oh well, I'll do one that like is excellent, that is irrefutably excellent. So
yeah, true. And I would really like to, like, I know we're not picking the theme, but there's some solid superhero movies we could do outside of this, so maybe something to think about for sure.
True. All right, doesn't the Toxic Avenger come out this year? Do y'all know anything about the Toxic Avenger?
What is that?
It's a movie that they've already made, and it's got Peter, the guy from the short guy from, what is that? Game of Thrones? Peter Dinklage?
Dinklage,
yeah. I think he plays like the Toxic Avenger. And this movie was supposedly like not it's a black comedy, like it's very out there, and it wasn't going to get released, but it should be released August of 2025. I don't think it's Marvel like tied into it, but it's supposed to be
a remake of a movie from 1984.
Gotcha.
1984, that's the year we're living in right now, brother, with all the suppression that we deal with.
The world tried to tell us.
Yeah, he tried to tell us.
Nothing was the same, right?
Nothing was the same, as you will see. All right, well, Trey, thanks for joining for the end, for the big reveal. And I'm very excited to get y'all's opinion next week. It's going to be an interesting conversation either way.
I think I'm going to be super sick next week.
Shut the fuck up. You guys got so lucky. Right before we recorded Bright Eyes, I was like, I'm going to fucking do it. I'm going to do it. And then I didn't do it.
Particularly white this evening.
I think it's the lighting with the
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
All right. Well, see you guys.
It'll be fun.
See you guys next week. Everybody else, we'll see you then.
Peace.
Peace.